Tonight's guest is Sandy Zelasko. Sandy is a California-based nature photographer who devotes a lot of her time to wildlife conservation photography. Her work has been praised in Nature's Best magazine. Her research on the Salton Sea has brought awareness about its history and the need to preserve it before it disappears. Sandy is an active member of North American Nature Photographers Association and the Photographic Society of America. She's a full-time photography workshop instructor, and she hosts birding tours along the Salton Sea. She's looking for bighorn sheep during their rut in Colorado. And she also chases humpback whales in Alaska. And that's just a few of her workshop offerings. You can connect with her through her website at investinnature.org. And if you're on Instagram, look for her at SLZ Photo, and I will link those to the show notes. So in tonight's presentation, The Intentional Wildlife Photographer, Sandy will share some ideas on how you can improve your mindset when planning a photo shoot and while capturing imagery in the field. She'll share tips and techniques to calm your mind and focus on the task at hand to better accomplish your photographic vision, whatever the subject might be. Sandy, it's nice to have you here.
It's nice to be here. Hi, everyone.
I have met you in person. I met you in March when you came through. I was hosting the Happiness Hour, which is my YouTube channel, in Georgetown, Texas. And we were doing a live kind of conference thing. And you walked in and I looked at you like, you know, people look out of place when they're not on Instagram or they're outside of the Zoom box. And I just looked at you and you were like, Sandy Zelasko. And I'm like, what are you doing here? It was crazy. So it was really nice to get a hug from you. And it was just it was so cool. That was so cool because you drove out of your way to come over and say hello. So thank you.
I was there. I had to come say hi.
Yeah. I know, because if I found that out later, I'm like,
oh yeah,
that would have been really bad. Really bad. Did I miss anything in your intro? Is there anything that you want to add?
That's really great. I'll talk a little bit more at the end of the presentation, just so people know, they can take me seriously or not. All right, everybody. Thank you so much again for having me, Linda. This is great. Tonight's topic is the intentional wildlife photographer. And so I'll talk about why this subject. I'm going to talk about why is wildlife in parentheses. Okay. Preparing your shoot days in advance, some really good tools, some thought processes that you need to go through to do that. And then to be, more intentional in the field. How do you get distracted? I know I'm distracted a lot, but I try to minimize that distraction in the field. And then we'll go on and talk about some other notes. We'll finish up on a high note. So why this subject? Because I found myself not being intentional. I lead workshops. So my mindset is I have to take care of my clients. I can't get the photo. I'm going out scouting days before, and I'm looking for photos, but I'm also looking for restrooms. I'm looking for, what time the restaurant opens and closes. And so it's not, when I'm preparing for a workshop, I'm not really intentional. And, it took me it took me more than a year. It took me a few years to realize, hey, I'm not filling my library with those good images anymore. What's going on? And so I really caught myself in a position where I was too busy, I was looking in other directions. So this may resonate with each of you, even if you don't do workshops. When was the last time you were intentional about going out to shooting something and not just going out looking for something to shoot? So I cleared my schedule. I stepped down from being the president of the North County Photographic Society after 7 years. I said, that's it. I really need to concentrate on myself. I'm not getting any younger. And I also stepped down from a board position for the Valley Center Art Gallery, which is a local gallery that we're trying to build in our community here. And so, and it has worked wonders. I've really opened up a lot of time. I hate to disappoint people, but you know what? I had to do something for myself. And so I'm still running all my workshops, actually a couple of more than I have ran in the past. And so I'm avoiding those distractions in my life in general. And then I'm opening my mind up to other possibilities, like I said, new workshops kind of thing. But I'm getting out sooner to scout. I'm not getting out just 3 or 4 days ahead of time. I may be going for a couple of weeks ahead of time to scout these places, and a year or two ahead of time. So anyway, that's what the intentional wildlife photographers, kind of why I'm doing this program, because I find myself stepping back into being more intentional. And why is wildlife in parentheses? It's because this works with every kind of photographer. I don't care if you're doing headshots or you're doing weddings. The intention is the word we're trying to kind of define here tonight. So what is an intentional wildlife photographer? It's definitely not a lazy photographer. You know, I really think that you need to be flexible. First of all, in most every photography that you do, if you're shooting a wedding or you're shooting a family member, you know, you have to be flexible. Weather can come into the, can be an issue. Yeah, lighting, location, all that kind of stuff. So you have to be flexible. You have to be really knowledgeable. And as far as wildlife goes, and that's probably what I'm going to just concentrate on from now on for the presentation tonight, you really have to be knowledgeable about the wildlife that you're shooting. And and that's a tough one. That takes a long time to understand one species, years sometimes, and to getting that intentional shot, and that can be really it can be really frustrating if you don't know enough about your subject. So being knowledgeable about your subject, being creative when you're in the field, that it be intentionally creative. Put a little bit of grass in between in the foreground so it gives you a intentional vignette in front of your subject. Things like that. That's what I'm talking about. You got to start thinking outside the box. And getting more creative, because you can go on Instagram nowadays and you can see thousands of pictures of bears, but what bear catches your eye? I scroll through and I'm like, okay, I'm bored with all these bear pictures now, but there'll be somebody that gets really creative with one that I haven't seen, and that needs to be you. You need to get creative with your photography now. The competition's just phenomenal and too great to pass up. You have to be able to compartmentalize. And when you're in the field, especially, the conversations that are going on around you, or maybe you're not with people. Maybe you're on a line of photographers and you hear conversations in your left ear and your right ear, but you need to really figure out what your intention is again in the field, and go back to that first, that pre-visualization that you're doing. So what I do before I even go out on a shoot, I'll be going through some of those things, but I try to see the big picture, the medium picture, that middle picture, and then the really detailed picture. And I'm one that likes to get all of those. If I'm on a shoot, if I'm going out to do grouse, I'm looking for certain things, and they can be the environmental shot, they can be the interacting shot, and they can be the really detailed of the orange combs on the grouse, or the panay, or whatever it is I need. So you're looking for almost three types of pictures. You have to be dedicated. I've been doing the grouse workshops that I'll talk about later today. For this will be my 5th year starting next year. So yeah, dedication. You're doing your research and dedicating your time to a conservation piece that may make or break somebody's opinion on a certain species, maybe. And you have to not mind putting in the work. So that's kind of intentional. Uh, Intentional means being purposeful, um, by design. I mean, these are all things that are maybe in the back of your mind, but you need to bring them forward and think about this. You need to be deliberate. You need to plan. We talked about pre-visualize, and I put premeditated here. So you have to have and I don't mean premeditated murder. That's when I see premeditated, I think, oh, murder. But that's not what I meant by it. It's pre-visualizing, or, thinking about ahead of time before you go out, being calculated, and, thinking your subject and your story through. So think about the story you're trying to tell out there. And I'm going to try to give you tips on how to make a better story. So what does it mean? Again, being intentional. You have choices when you're in the field. You can be a reactionary photographer and, just grab a shot here and there and this and that. I was photographing bears the other day in Yellowstone, and everybody was just reacting to. Nobody was setting up, thinking about the possible shots. They were just snapping away, and I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go down the line and look for a different, perspective. So you can be reactionary, or you can be intentional, and you can create art instead of snapshots. So that's kind of something to think about. So preparing your shoot in advance. So I mean, I'm researching weeks, months, and years in advance. Right now, I'm researching. I'm going to go to Flaming Gorge recreation area in Utah, and I'm looking to see what's really there. Well, I've seen pictures. I've done a lot of research on it, and I understand some of the species that I'm going to see there, and then I want to get way more specific with those species and learn more about them. So I'm picking a subject, and I'm not like wandering aimlessly. Where the bighorn sheep going to be, what time of day, what time of year, da 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 da, for my subjects in that area. And then I create a shot list. So on the left, you'll see my shot list for this March. I guess it was March when I went out to Texas to the coastal prairie area to learn more about Atwater prairie chickens. And this shot list is kind of an ongoing shot list. So it wasn't all specific about Atwaters, but I needed pictures of bison and grouse in the same shot, showing harmony on the plains or harmony in a prairie. I needed pictures of camera setups in the blinds. I needed more details of what happens in your blind. I'm telling a whole story. I'm looking to tell the whole story of my adventure. I'm looking to gather material for writing articles. I'm looking for that special shot that I'm going to put in a competition, maybe, that nobody has, that creative shot. I need to do videos with my new mic. So you can see that list that I've got down: feather details, comb details, fighting images, nesting images. I need flying grouse at the horizon line. So it's very detailed. You can see that. So I really, really believe that a shot list helps put your mind at ease. You can always pull it out of your pocket, look at it, remind yourself, what am I shooting here? What things do I need to get for my story? Then I Google Getty. I go to Pinterest. I go to Instagram. I try all sorts of different things. I look for what other people are doing. I take techniques, ideas for techniques from people, but then again, I try to look for my own vision. I have a style. I've been doing this for so many years now. I've been in business since 1992. I started out with people pictures, and then I moved into weddings, and then finally, about halfway through my career, I said, oh, okay, that's enough of that, and I just started doing wildlife. So anyway, so I have some knowledge, but I'm always accruing more knowledge and looking for other styles and other visions. I have a couple people that I follow now that you might, if you're into video, I love Bertie Gregory. He's on the Disney Plus channel. I love his work. I love his enthusiasm, his positive outlook. So that gets me hyped up and going. I like to follow, let's see, I still follow Tom Mangelson. You guys may know him from Nebraska, but he's got galleries all over the US and probably other places I don't know about. And he was one of my first mentors. So people like that, Art Wolf, you've heard of him probably. You kind of see what they're doing and see how they're, bringing some innovation to the wildlife industry. And so I spent a lot of time looking at other people's work. So that kind of prepares me for what's missing out there, or what other technique I can use to further my knowledge and my teaching ability and learning ability and all that stuff. I mentioned, review your past images. So I do that too. I go back and before I'm going out, say, I go to Badlands National Park every year to do baby bighorn sheep. And I go back to my old images and go, okay, what did I miss? What do I need? But more likely what worked and what didn't work for me. And I try to go improve on those things that worked. Then I pre-visualize those things. I'm always thinking, I'm on my drive over there, I'm going, okay, I've got to get this baby in this position and with this nanny and maybe with two others in the background. I'm trying to compose my images already, so I know what I'm looking for when I get there. You have to acquire the gear. I don't care who tells you that it's not the gear. In the long run, it will be about some of the gear. I don't bring it all. If I know I'm doing what I'm doing, if I'm doing a macro shoot, if I'm going to do, say little salamanders somewhere, I know what I'm going to bring. I'm not going to bring my 600 to go do the salamanders. I'm going to bring my macro lens. I'm going to bring something else that's got a wide angle, something I can show environment. So I have all the gear basically, but I don't bring all the gear for every shoot. Plan to be prepared. I don't even know why I put that in there. I can't remember offhand. And then this is one key thing, instead of asking yourself, what if I come across a bear, ask, how am I going to photograph that bear when I do come across it? And there's where you got to be flexible, because it may be in a situation where the lighting's not right. So know that you're going to photograph a bear, and then know how you can change up your perspective to make that happen. Okay, let's go on to the next thing. So some of the tips that I really find helpful when I'm preparing a shoot, because when I'm looking to shoot, I'm looking for a story, ultimately a story. Now, the lighting has to be there, the composition has to be there, the whatever else I need for the exposure, all that stuff has to be there to begin with. But I need to have a story, and to help me prepare for a better story, I'm listing adjectives in my mind, on paper, wherever. I think if you start looking at your shoots this way, it may be helpful for you. It may be too much for you. It may be overwhelming at some point. It is for me. A lot of times I'm overwhelmed. But but what happens when you're in the field and you're shooting, say for instance, this shot you see on the screen right now, I didn't know that quite was going to happen, but to me, it shows motherhood. It shows connection. It shows, it just shows a little bit of love, and maybe that's not what was happening at that moment, but that's what the picture shows, and people are going to react to an image that tells a story. And using adjectives for your images is just like a no-brainer. It's like I can't do it any other way now. I go out with things, like for instance, one of the things I have written down here in my notes, instead of the bees flew around the flowers and making that my story, I think about the busy bees flew around the colorful flowers. So you got busy and you got colorful now, and you need to show those two things in your image to make a more creative image, to make it more appealing to your viewer, appealing to that judge. So maybe emphasize that busyness, maybe show a little motion with a slower shutter speed, maybe show the color, maybe in the foreground, that flower in the foreground, maybe that's what you're emphasizing. So there's a list of adjectives there, orange, grouchy, drowsy, endangered, brave. You can show brave. Think about a lowland gorilla and beating its chest, and that brave, that look. So those are the kind of things I want to kind of push into one corner of your mind. Think about adjectives. And let's go on to the next slide there. There's another thing I do is think about concepts. So I'm shooting like a catalog of concepts. So you may, on your computer, in Lightroom, wherever, make a folder for concepts, and then list some concepts in that folder, and then try to fit your images into those concepts, or go out and shoot for those concepts. It can work both ways. I come across a photo on my desktop once in a while and go, oh wow, that works really well for this concept. Now there's different types of concepts. There's all those ones I have listed: concrete, abstract, natural, artificial, self concepts. So the theatrical, or anyway, just different kinds. There's negative concepts. So, that it just kind of, I don't use all of them. Those are just types of concepts. Let me go on and show you more of the concepts I use. So abundance. So I have a folder that says abundance, and I'll throw in an image I get from a shoot, maybe that maybe I'm not there to shoot abundance, but hey, I got these snow geese in this beautiful sky. That works. I put that in that folder. So now when I have a client who's looking for a certain thing that might represent abundance or mini, or just something in that category, then I can go to that folder and go, hey, I've got these images. Would they work for your advertising agency? Would they work? Whatever. So there's just a whole bunch of concepts you can come up with, and I've listed a few of them. I've got a couple more examples. So hope. So sunshine, arms wide open. You might have a little kid running up with the arms wide open. It'll also show joy. It could show youth. Those could all be concepts. Partners, two snakes intertwined. Home, you're an environment, just any environment. It doesn't have to be your house. It could be your backyard where you have a garden. That's home to you. It could be home to somebody else. But if somebody's looking for that concept, and then you need to put all these concept words in your metadata. You know what? I don't think I talked about that the last time I presented this. This is my third time presenting this intentional wildlife photographer presentation. But I think if you add these concepts into your metadata, which I do all the time, when I'm bringing my images into my, I don't use Lightroom. I use Adobe ACR, Bridge, and Photoshop. I'm just a Photoshop gal, but I do put in all my metadata, and I will add my concepts in that metadata, so that when I go to pull up these, something that says justice, then I might have a handful of images in there that I've put in there from before. So just a way to keyword and look for your images. Here's a couple of other examples of concepts. Emotion, could be wrinkles, it could be a smile, it could be tears, it could be a head droop, a touch. You got the little prairie dog hands touching. Well, isn't that cute? I mean, you can use cute for a concept, I guess, but it goes way beyond that. The three little prairie dogs in the lower right hand corner is a family, a group of prairie dogs, or something like that. So anyway, I don't want to beat it to death, but concepts are great. And if you're shooting, I just got back from a shoot. So the next 3 slides are part of that, what I got from that shoot. I was up in the Beartooth Mountains for a week. And I went there purposely, this is intentionally, to shoot mountain goat babies and mountain goats and pika and marmots. So I was very, very intentional about what I was going to shoot. I don't shoot landscapes unless they really are like stunning, right? But I do shoot wildlife all the time. So shooting a catalog of adjectives and concepts. Here's some images I got from that shoot. And the one on the left, I can apply solitary, lonely to that image. And it's got a nice, it's got 3 like triangles. You can see the triangles in the, that long triangles, 1, 2, 3, foreground, middle ground, background, a single solitary animal that looks disheveled maybe. So it kind of gives the lonely look. It may mean something else to you. And if you have other concepts that come to mind or adjectives that come to mind, certainly put them in the chat. I'd love to see them. The bottom left-hand corner, travel, adventure. Here again, family, motherhood, something of that sort. I just put in a couple of words here and there. The top right, playful or joy, or, just the story. Again, you're thinking of story. And the bottom right, boundaries or boundary, edge or conclusion. You could use this slide as the end of a presentation, or someone that's, again, you could use it for travel. So there's different things you can apply, different concepts and adjectives you can apply to your photography. So you need to go back and look at some of the stuff you've done. Start there, go to a folder and go, oh my gosh, I didn't know I could really apply this to that and tell my story better. And how can I tell it better next time, right? Here's some more. Contemplative, this pika on the left that's looking out to a wide open space, or watchful, this marmot to the bottom left that's looking out for maybe a predator. The one on the right, the pika on the right that's running with the mouth full of flowers. Hurry, hustle, an active style, lifestyle, that type of thing. There's a few more concepts for you. And then the bottom left is actually 2 baby marmots. You probably can't tell they're babies right there, but it was kind of endearing, and it was kind of family oriented. The flowers just made the shot, but I know that that stupid rock that's coming out of the bottom left is just bugging me, and I'm kicking myself because I'll probably never get that scene again. And if I were to go back, I'd reposition myself for a better composition of the shot. And maybe I can darken down that rock a little bit. But you know what? It's like it's family, it's endearing, it's kind of those kind of concepts. And the one on the right was so fun. This marmot was not looking at me. He was totally looking straight forward, and I was shooting him. And then all of a sudden he just turned really quick and did this pose. And so I kind of thought this was showy or swagger, or he was the leader of the group of marmots that were hanging around in that little pull off, or ultimately just was funny to me. It was just funny. So I call this one Betty Grable. So that's my name for this marmot. Betty Grable. I don't know if Betty Grable had red hair, but this pose just is like a 1920s pose for a photo shoot for a movie on a movie set. So all right, so we got those concepts and those adjectives kind of we're thinking about that. So those are kind of all pre-planned. Maybe now you're in the field and you're trying to figure out, how am I going to do all that? How am I going to shoot the story? How am I, that kind of thing. And it's kind of a sensory overload. Like I come across this scene of all those bison in the middle of a field and middle of a prairie out at Badlands National Park. And I don't know what to do with it. I've got too many merging bison, right? I need bison that are kind of set apart, but I can't really get closer to them or they'll move on. So I got to kind of be flexible. I've got to say, okay, I'm going to use a little bit of the diagonal in this to make the composition a little more striking and things like that. But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to let my friend distract me, because I was there with a friend and my friend's asking me, oh, how am I going to shoot this? I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to start with, but you need to move over and do your own thing. So I find myself distracted by when I'm traveling with friends. I try to we try to have conversations about this, but when it comes time to shoot, I have one friend that I go with that is just wonderful because she does her own thing and I do my own thing. And then there's a point where that you're coming back together and you can talk about it afterwards. But so friends are distracting. So I have to say that you need to just be a little assertive and just, do your own thing in the field. Make sure your friend understands that. Spouses are ultimately distracting, if you know what I mean. My husband is not a photographer, so and neither is my dog. And so I have to once in a while go out without them if they're tagging along. We took a 2-month-long trip this past April and May, and there were times that was very distracting. So now I'm off my game. I'm not being intentional. I'm worried about, does dog have water? Those kind of things. So you need to eliminate those things, or you need to at least calm those distractions down in the field. Again, I mentioned conversations around you. A lot of times you're shooting in a group of people because you're at Yellowstone National Park or another park, and Smoky Mountain, and there's a bear in a tree. And you've got to quiet those conversations. Pay attention, first of all, for your own safety. Ethics come into consideration here. You don't want to move in too close to your wildlife that you're, trying to shoot. But the conversations have to go away. You have to just block them out. You have to just forget about the movement behind you, unless of course you're on a road and there's a car passing by you every couple of minutes. Then you have to be mindful of that. And then distant noises and things like that. You really need to tune all of that out and really stop and think about, again, what you're there for. So that's when you're in the field. Again, take a deep breath. I find that really helps, because sometimes I get annoyed with people that are crowding me and I just have to take a deep breath. I have to move. I have to just stop what I'm doing and think about how I can get myself out of this situation. I'm really, this might be basic to some people, but a lot of times I find myself just being overwhelmed with people that are crowding me out, or things that are going on in the distance. If I'm shooting a bison herd, let's just go back to the bison herd. And there is a bison that's creeping a little bit closer to me. Do I want to switch my focus and get some detail shots out of that bison? Remember, I talked about the big picture, the medium picture, and then the little detail pictures. So, your story, right? Whatever your story is. You might remove yourself from the situation. A lot of times, a lot of the bear jams, I just can't stand it. I've got to leave because I just can't handle the people that are out there that are doing stupid things in the field. And I don't want to see that. I want to keep positive if I can. I'm thinking through my story. I'm observing behavior. And that's another thing I want to mention, that you're going to get the better stories if you're watching for behavior. And that means that you've researched the behavior and you're looking for it, so it's a process of researching, planning, pre-visualizing. Again, this is all done. It starts to become second habit for you. Once you do it once, you're going to start doing it for everything. And then ultimately, you're going to be picking your backgrounds. That, you're looking for behavior and picking your backgrounds, things that complement your behavior, the behavior of the subject, or things that simplify your story, simplify what's going on in the scene around you. All right, let's go to the next one. Here's one. Make sure that shot list is in your pocket. A lot of times I leave it back at the hotel room and I go, oh my God, what was on my shot list? Put that shot list in your pocket, in your camera bag or something. I'm really, really, honestly, that helps me so many times to refocus. And then I have my adjective or concepts. I might have that list with me. I might not. That's when I kind of try to do ahead of time and then apply it for the behavior in the field. And then just think again, what's my goal here? You can't always get a perfect picture, but you can certainly try to develop one while you're in the field by doing these little tips and tricks, right? And then I kind of commit to one subject. One subject, one behavior. I don't go out and you don't find me in Yellowstone anymore. I used to go like 5 times a year to Yellowstone, just driving around, looking for something to photograph. I don't do that anymore. I still do that, but I don't do it on a regular basis anymore because I have pre-focused on different things that I need, like my grouse stuff. I'll definitely go to a certain lek to see this and another lek to see that. So I'm very, very specific. My time's very valuable now, and I don't have the time to just wander. A lot of you may have that time to just wander, and that's great because really it's fun to do that. But I don't find myself doing that as much anymore. I'm concentrating on one subject. So don't forget to be a photographer, an artist. You don't want that snapshot. You don't want to react. You want to be intentional. When you're in the field and you're with a workshop, this is interesting because I see this happen to a lot of my workshop clients, and they're intimidated. That's the number one thing I see with some clients. I have a group of people that do follow me that are very intentional. But if there's a new person in the group or a newer photographer, or you're just starting out, or you're not quite sure what you should be doing, I want you to come to the workshop leader, come to me and say, look, as many times as I've been asked, what are my settings here? I come back with the question, well, what is your story? Right? You've got to stop and think about your strategy here, what you want to get in the field. Um, did you come here with a story? If you didn't, I'm going to help you see a story. Uh, you know, but if you're on somebody's workshop, that a leader that doesn't do that, oh my gosh, I just, you've spent a lot of money to come out. You spent your airline fee, your, lodging, whatever it might be. You should expect that workshop leader to help you see a story, help you with your settings, and how you can change your settings to make that story better for your vision. So you have a vision. I might have a vision. We might be looking at the same thing, but my visions might be different from yours. It's oftentimes I go out with people that I'm in the field with, and I go, oh, I didn't even think about that. So hopefully there's some time for you to talk to other workshop participants and see their work. I think that's really important when you're in the field. So, to get different perspectives, and it's just all learning. You're just going to learn from it. There's really, I encourage you to do something with a group. I know I like to shoot alone, but again, when I get in the groups, when I have my clients and followers around, I see something different all the time. I go, wow, I've got to shoot that way next time. So anyway, so that's kind of what I'm talking about here. And, if you're by yourself, really enjoy and create. I mean, I really love to shoot by myself because there's no distractions. And then I can start working the subject. I can start working that flower. I can start working that sheep, that goat that I see. I can move by myself. I'm not going to hurt anything. So anyway, so I just kind of wanted to stress that. I think if you're paying a lot for a workshop, I think you need to get the most out of it that you can get out of it. And that is, you don't have to be the squeaky wheel, but I want you to speak up and ask for what you deserve. So we're getting towards the end here, and I wanted to say that technology is really kind of a game changer right now. The switch from DSLRs or SLRs, whatever you're using, to mirrorless is, I mean, I hesitated I probably waited a good 18 months when mirrorless came out to see what it was all about, to try to understand how is that going to help my life? How is that going to help me create better images? And it really has. I have to say, the gear, like we started out saying early in this workshop, that the gear is kind of a game changer in how I see things in the field now. So the mirrorless benefits, just I might mention a couple of them. The viewfinders. So you're seeing your exposure, your histogram. You have the options to do this in your viewfinder. So your electronic viewfinders, the EVFs, are just totally game changers. I don't even have to think about it anymore. I don't have to. I can look through the viewfinder, shoot knowing I'm getting the right exposure, where when I was shooting DSLRs, I'd have to shoot through the viewfinder, know from past experience, because I started when everything was manual, and then I moved up through the ranks and moved up to the DSLRs, but I still had to look on the back of my camera, my LCD screen, to see my histogram. But now you can see those through the viewfinders. That means you don't have to take your eye away from your viewfinder to know that you're getting a correct exposure. So that's one game changer of the mirrorless cameras now. Your ISOs are just phenomenal. And talking about ISOs, you can go up much higher, but the third-party software like Topaz that's out there nowadays can really cut back on the noise that higher ISOs brings in your images, right? So so again, all of this new software, all this, the new mirrorless cameras, they're really, really helping you out. They're saving you time in post-processing, I think, a little bit anyway. The most time I spend in post-processing is the editing. Because these mirrorless benefits, you're shooting 20 frames, 30 frames a second. Now we're talking about 40 frames with the new R1 that I shoot Canon gear. I'm shooting the R3s right now. I have a couple of R3 bodies. I just got the 600 RF lens. So the editing takes a long time in back in your office, right? It's crazy amount of time. So you're replacing some of the post-processing. You might not be, because a lot of people I know love the time behind the computer, and some people hate the time behind the computer. So it's got its ups and downs, its drawbacks and its benefits. So what I want you to do, though, for the newer people that are out there shooting, I want your goal to be keeping your eye in the viewfinder, whether you're shooting the old DSLRs or the new mirrorless cameras. I want you to be in the viewfinder shooting. I don't want you to take your eye away from the viewfinder. I want you to be able to know your controls on your camera like the back of your hand. They have to be second nature for you to exceed and go beyond and above. This is one thing that you really need to do. Too often I see clients go, what should my settings be? They're looking down at the the LCD screen, and they're putting their settings in. I want them to be looking through the viewfinder. I want them to be changing their settings in the viewfinder while they've got their autofocus point on their subject, and they're watching with one eye, they're watching the activity and the behavior. And then I shoot with my left eye. This may be different for each of you. You might shoot with your right eye. I shoot with my left eye in the viewfinder all the time. My right eye is open, looking to see what's going to happen next in my scene. It's peripheral vision, I guess, what I'm saying. You're looking to see if there's, something dangerous happening, another bison approaching you when you're shooting a bison through the viewfinder. That happens a lot. So anyhow, those are kind of little tips and tricks and things that I want you to function through the viewfinder and make that a habit. So you need to know which way you turn the dial to make your aperture go up, or give you more depth of field, or go down and go to an f2.8 instead of going into an f22. You got to know which way that happens. If you don't practice that on a regular basis, the next time you go out in the field, you're going to have to learn it all over again. It's happened to me. I changed the way I use my turning wheel on the back. Is that gonna change my aperture? Is it gonna change my shutter speed? Is it gonna go higher? It's gonna lower. It's gonna change my ISO. All that stuff needs to be second nature. So that's functioning through the viewfinder. So I want you to practice. I don't care if you're not shooting anything. I want you to just go out, take your camera, practice, those controls, and see what you're doing, and do it 3 or 4 or 5 times a week. Just go in your backyard and just kind of keep it in memory muscle. So, and I just plan for the things you can control, and then be spontaneous when those things present themselves. Like this red tail was on a post, and it was a beautiful pose, and he was doing some looking around and all that stuff, but all of a sudden he took off, and I was ready for it. So in this circumstance, my ISO, I was shooting a stationary bird at 1/3200th of a second, 1/3200th of a second, because of the possibility that he was going to fly. And then I would have the speed, enough speed to capture that position in the sky when he, his primaries are up and out and his feathers are fanned, and my focus is on his eyes still. So that kind of thing. All those things help you become a better photographer. So kind of final notes today. Your goals, you're communicating, your image is ultimately going to communicate with the viewer. So if you're hanging in a gallery, you want that viewer to be enthralled with your image. You want that viewer to understand the story of your image. You want that judge to say, wow, they really thought about what they were shooting that day. And then, so you're ultimately pleasing yourself, but then you're pleasing the viewer. If you're going to hang it on your wall at home and nobody else is going to see it, then please yourself. But if you're going to put it into competition, some of these competitions are really stiff, and these judges are really good out there, and they do see, and they do try to put themselves. I do a program that is called From a Judge's Point of View, and I talk about everything a judge sees and why you need to be aware of it. So that's kind of what your ultimate goal is, the story and the technical aspect of your image and stuff like that. So you're communicating with that viewer, that judge, that whoever that is. Then you need to understand the new technology, read about it. If you're not into mirrorless yet, if you can't afford mirrorless, stay with your DSLR. I mean, I love my DSLRs. Now they're now sitting in a box. I have 3 1D Mark IV bodies that are just sitting in a box, and I've got to go pull the batteries out of them. I don't know if I did that already or not, because I don't want them to, to get bad, but I don't know what I'm going to do with them now. So I've moved on to the mirrorless, technology, and I'm still learning it. I still don't understand it. My book, I bought from a third party. I bought the instruction book, the manual, and it is about, it's 4 books about 3 inches thick. Each one of them is about 3 inches thick. Now, there's not a lot on every page, but I don't read every page. I just read what I need to know. So don't go through your manual and fall asleep or get distracted or say, I'll never use that. Just go find one thing that you're going to use, like depth of field, learn that to the best of your ability. Learn what the depth of field button does. It shows you what your depth of field is going to be like in the frame. Do you know you have one on your camera? Use it. So just go to one thing in your manual and practice that. And then, over a year, you're going to get through that manual, and you may not. I use probably 10% of my camera. I don't use everything it gives me. I paid for it all, but I don't use it. There's nobody that uses 100% of their camera, I don't think. You've got different niches of photography. So you're out there shooting sports, maybe. You're doing, and then you can break down sports into NASCAR, and you can break it into baseball. So they're very specific things. I've done all of those things. I've done all sorts of sports, photographing sports over my career. I even did county fairs. I did the pigs coming into the last picture of the pig that's going to be alive. So, there's specific niches for what you do. Find your niche. I'll tell you what, you'll get better and better and better and better at it. And then somebody's going to come and ask you to do a presentation on that niche sometime. Or, you're going to be able to share some really good information about that niche. So anyway, practice, practice, practice. I can't say that enough. Go out all the time. Your depth of field in one lens is going to be different than it is in another lens. So don't think it's going to be the same. So you're going to take out a prime 600 lens. Your depth of field is going to be 1 inch out there. You take out a 24-105 lens and your depth of field is going to be 50 feet maybe. So at the same aperture. So you really have to know those things. Again, be intentional. I want you all to go out there, be a hero, change the world with your images, tell your stories. I mean, I love to see your stories. So if you feel like you want to keep in contact, and I didn't ramble on too much, then this is me. I'm at investinnature.org. It's you can see my workshops there. You can see my galleries, which are very old. I haven't got hardly any new stuff in there. I really have to work on creating some better galleries there. You can read my blog. You can see some of the conservation projects I worked on in the past. You can subscribe if you'd like to, right there with that little subscribe thing I just circled on the screen there. You may have to expand your window to see that subscribe, but you can subscribe, and I send out newsletters. I try to send them out every month. I haven't sent a newsletter out since April, so I'm way behind, but I'm working on it. I've been working on it all day, so it may happen in the next couple of days. My upcoming workshops, I do have a couple of spots in a couple of them. The Wind River Photographers Retreat is it's in the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem, but down east of the Tetons in that area in the Shoshone National Forest in Du Bois. We concentrate on wildlife. It's a big wildlife workshop. So it limits out at 8 people, and there's 2 workshop leaders for that one. And so we have a couple spots left for that one. Channel Islands National Park, if you've ever heard of it, it's out off the coast. It's a boat ride, an hour boat ride out to one of the closest islands. We'll be doing the endemic island fox. We'll be doing the endemic island jay. And if we get lucky, the skunks that are on the island. And so we're doing that. That's a one-day thing. You have to be a PSA member for that one. And there's only I'm doing 2 workshops, 2 one-day workshops out there. The first day filled up so fast in like 8 hours that I had to add a second workshop. And now I have an opening in that second workshop, just one opening. And it's really reasonable. And it's not on my website. So contact me if you're interested in that Channel Islands workshop. It's November 6th. There's one opening. I do a lot of work at the Salton Sea, and I'm doing 3 weekender workshops, which is 3 days for wild side nature tours out at the Salton Sea. And if you've never heard of the Salton Sea, I'll tell you about it in a minute, just briefly. We're doing Rocky Mountain Bighorn sheep rut in Du Bois, Wyoming, with the Wind River herd. That's up, they come down from the mountains during that time. It's in December. There's I think a couple spots left for that one. Anza-Borrego Desert State Park, which is the largest state park in California, second one in the state park system of all of the United States. And it is fabulous because we should have a great bloom, desert bloom. There are bighorn sheep out there. There's antelope ground squirrels. And there's some real eclectic things out. It's a kind of a well-rounded workshop out in the desert in prime time. Beautiful weather out there. Humpback whales of Sitka, Alaska. There's only 1 spot left on that one. And I'm just posting my prairie chicken workshop for April next year. And so that one, I've got a couple of people that are looking for that. And I've got some other workshops in my head, I should say, in the works in my head. So check back often for that. I am a published, I do studies on grouse with Christine Pence, and that's why I was in Texas this past March doing some work on the Atwater prairie chicken, trying to understand their story and the story of the coastal prairies. So I was down there in Houston area, from Houston to Corpus Christi, learning about the Atwater prairie chicken down there. But we have a blog. So if you want to learn more about prairie chicken, all kinds of grouse, I should say. So from down in the lower left, that's the greater sage grouse. The middle picture is the sharp-tailed grouse, and another greater sage grouse on the right, but prairie chickens and the like. So you can see the blog there. I do offer with my girlfriend, Jenny Wolf. She partners with me on this YouTube channel, and it's called Chicks Talking Pics. We invite you to come take a look at it, look at some of the episodes we have up. We've been kind of in a hiatus for the last couple of few months, actually. We're going to start up again real soon, but we invite you to send in your images where we discuss those images in a session episode that's about 20 minutes. So we usually take 3 images and we'll talk about how you can improve those images. If you're getting ready to put them in a competition, if you're getting ready to hang them on your wall, if, you know, for whatever reason, if you just want some feedback on your images, we're there to give it to you. So it's really, really kind of a fun, lighthearted, and we're not mean, that's for sure. We do try to be more positive, but we do point out some of the things that could hold your images back from going further in a judging competition. So I want to thank everybody for attending today. That's how you can get a hold of me. You can take a screenshot if you haven't already been doing that. I work with the Wildside Nature Tours, the group with Lee Hoy and a plethora of other photographers that are out there doing great work. I do a lot out in the local Anza Borrego Desert State Park. And for the nonprofits out there, which is the Borrego Art Institute, the Anza Borrego Foundation, and the Anza Borrego Desert Natural History Association, I'm doing in next February and March, I'm doing 6 programs for those people out there, plus judging one of their yearly annual competitions, which is really, really fun. And then I work at the Botanic Garden here locally in Encinitas, California. And I do programs on smartphone photography, on setting up your mirrorless and DSLRs, some of the basics photography. It's called Fundamentals in Creative Control. So those are kind of some of the programs I have going on out there. And I welcome anybody to just give me a call, write me an email, and whatever else they need if they have a question, if I didn't cover it. And thanks again for everybody for coming today.
Andy, thank you so much. When you were talking about all the little things that, you could be doing, I was sitting there going, I do this, I do this, I do this. I never thought about that. Oh, and so you've created a list of things for me to kind of reassess. I need to go back and look at those screenshots of the list that you provided, because I kind of got lost in a few of them, because I'm thinking I would have never ever considered doing that. Creating those little vignettes of categories, I guess, is how you did it. And because a lot of times, at least recently, when I'm trying to pull together a collection of photos to tell a full story of a little project I might be working on, I have like the great wow shot and the great little detail shot, but I'm missing so many pieces because I kind of get caught up in the wow shot, and I don't have anything to kind of build that story, those supplemental pieces. And the little light bulb went on for me when you started rattling off some of those. So one of the things I was going to ask you when you were talking about your workshops, how many people are going? Do you max out at a certain number? So if somebody's looking at going with you, I mean, how big of a group do you normally take?
So when I'm going by myself, it's six. I
Okay.
try not to have any more than six. Now, for some of these nonprofits I work with, I open that up to a little bit more because I'm working to help them make a little bit of funds, right? So I may do 10, I might do 15. It depends on what I'm doing, what kind of workshop I'm doing. But for my own workshops, it's six for me. And then if I'm doing more than six, I will have two people. So I work with Bill Sienkiewicz, who lives in DuBois, Wyoming, and knows the area even better than I do. And I've been up there thousands of times. So, so we max out at eight. So we each have four people. Usually we get a mix of Canon and Nikon shooters, some Sony shooters, Olympus shooters. So we have a mix. Bill's a Nikon shooter. I'm a Canon shooter. So we try to help people, maybe I might have four people that I'm helping and he's helping too, or, but generally, we can help both people, anybody that's shooting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a comfortable number, really. I mean, a friend of mine recently went on a workshop, and I don't know why she was under the impression that it would be a small group, and she got there. It was one instructor with 12 people, and she
Oh,
she just didn't get, you know, when you were talking about raise your hand, tell that instructor, that workshop a leader, hey, these are my goals. This is kind of what I want to leave with.
yeah.
And she left with, she has some pretty pictures, but she just didn't feel like she got her money's worth. And that's just one of those things that has been sticking in my head this week of, you know, look for smaller groups, look for, where you're going to have an opportunity. And I suggested to her, the next time you do this, talk to the person you're going with. What can I expect? Am I going to get some hands on? Not to be afraid to ask those questions when you're laying out a little, lump of a little stack of dollar bills to go on your dream trip. So that's one of those things that has been kind of high on my head of just thoughts recently of, I wish that more workshop leaders would work with their clients before they get out on a trip. So
Yeah.
I'm
We,
happy to hear
we,
that.
Bill and I, when we're working together and doing these larger trips that are a week long, we usually do a pre-trip, a pre-webinar, and we do a post-webinar. So I think those are important things to find a kind of round off. You got to know what to expect, and then you got to see what everybody else saw. I think that's really helpful with workshops. So
Yeah, I don't have any questions for you, which that never bothers me whatsoever.
good.
There was a lot of information, a lot of good information. And I know you've done this presentation before, but thank you for sharing it with my group. And I look forward to adding this to the YouTube channel because it's I was admitting this about 2 weeks ago to someone. I was Wildlife photography is kind of like that's my new love, right? It's
Mhm.
hard. It is so hard. And I was doing it about every weekend and for months and months and months. And I just got in sync with my camera and I was able to catch things flying and, hard things like bees and dragonflies. And I figure if I can get a little dragonfly, I can get a bird.
Oh yeah,
So yeah, it was just really, I was just really proud of my skill set. And life, you have to put your life on pause for a little while, an adult, and that's when I'm in my phase of adulting. And so I put my camera kind of aside for the last 5, 6 months. And I just started picking it up, within just a couple of months ago, because I'm starting to photograph the things that are in my yard. And I just said it out loud to myself last week. I've lost my skill set. And I'm
yeah,
so, you know, frustrated and angry. And I've kind of made that commitment. You've got to have, and so now my camera just stays in the garage. So when I'm outside, it is, it's handy and I can run out there. And I've got to get back in that I don't know, routine of getting in my car and driving a back road and just looking for whatever appears in front of me, because I've just lost that. I don't know. I'm frustrated because I've lost that skill set. And so
So be more intentional. Don't
that's
just
exactly
look
my
for
problem.
anything out there. Know what's going to be out there and go look for it and go
Yeah.
look for
Well,
that. Yeah.
yeah, and that is something that I'm a big failure at, because when I do get to go out and play, and back me up, ladies in this room, we are just so excited to have our camera in time to ourselves to play. So it's really hard for me personally to like just, drill down and focus. So I'm just happy to get all these things or anything, but I understand what you're saying. And on my last real vacation, all I had in mind were puffins, and the puffins was my target bird. It was,
But
I came home with so many photos of puffins and not much else to show for, my trip to Iceland and the Faroe Islands. It was all about puffins. So, but my quote unquote catalog of puffins is complete. I really feel like there's not many pictures I missed
good.
or any scenarios. So, but I understand what you're saying, and I need to apply what you've said to my own practice. So thank you for kind of like dinging me just a little bit. Hey, think about this, because a lot of the things that you said are things that I need to think about, um, to be
Good.
intentional. So thank you. All
You're
right. Well, thank you for coming and sharing. I think we said it earlier, I met you through Instagram, and you've done several presentations for me for the happiness hour, and for you to come and do a presentation for this women's group, it's a treat. So thank you for doing that. And this video will go on the YouTube channel so that everybody can see it. I get a little flack from some of my male friends that ask, well, why can't we come? And it's like, because it's a women's photography group, that's why. But anyway, so thank you for doing that. So with that, I'll close out this session. And until next time, I hope that you all get a chance to get out there and play with your cameras. And we'll see you next time.